I'm going to jump right into something a little more advanced in this video. I need to cover something for a friend of mine, Van, who is, so far as I can tell as I communicate with people, is the only one that's really hooked into with what I'm doing right here. And he's got some computer skills where he's looking at a way to search what I need searched. So we're working together, and what I want to do is cover some things in this video for him. But anybody that's advanced seeking and looking at this stuff and really curious, this will be a good video. I will actually cover a couple of things right up front where 3 and 7 come from to originate. I can do that in a very concise way, and I'll start with that just so everybody's on board with where the origins of this numbering system begins. Very specifically what the 3 and the 7 means. It's a bundle of stuff right there. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is that I have to say is that what I'm looking at here is a numbering grid system that just spreads all throughout the material. It is hidden in words and numbers. And we'll see that as we move along. 3 and 7 starts it. What I want everybody to consider is that these are stories floating around way back then, coming around word of mouth, and they're not in a bundle like they are right here. And there is something to unlock in these stories. There's clues in the story that tell you how to unlock it. And what unlocks is a self-healing path, an inward-looking healing path. And that is something that we can find easily in Greek myth and other teachings. It is here also in Abrahamic work, but it's very hidden in a layering system, again, of, numbers and words. Okay, to see that, back to the 7 and 3, let's take a look. Creation, the first creation story right here. All right, beginning of Genesis, the first creation story is a 7-day creation story. I'll get to this goofy spelling up here later on in the video. For right now, though, what I want everybody to look at is day 3. Day 3 is important. I'm not going to go through the whole analysis. I've done that before. There's 2 things happening here that we have to infer something. And what is happening, it's said twice. It's actually kind of commanded into being, and then it comes into being. And we're going to see that doubling coming up throughout the material that makes it so. We're going to see 2 of numbers and different things showing up that also links it to here. Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants, yielding seed and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. And it was so. So there's 2 things that are happening there that we can infer. What we're going to do is realize this is a mental process, and that these are analogous terms holding something that is about how life works. This is coming from creation, how we come about. And what this is teaching us is 2 things. Number 1, since vegetation produces seeds that grow itself again, we have cause and effect right there, but we also have something else happening at the same time, and that is cycles. So we have both cause and effect and cycles being nested in here. This is something that would square up with other material, is why I find that in here. And it was so. Then the earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. So what's going on right here is that cause and effect is in place. Cycles are going to be happening as a result of what is planted. That's going to be a mental process. That means that what we learn and what we experience in life is going to continue to emerge as a part of our life. Now we come down here to day 7, and what do we have? And on the 7th day, God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the 7th day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation. 7th was said 3 times here. So 3 and 7 are now linked up right here on day 7. And day 7, if you were to put it parallel to the second creation story, the one I call the 5 rivers, what we have right down here is they're back, when you put them side by side at the end of this one. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept. Then he took one of his ribs and closed its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman and brought her to the man. Then the man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one shall be called woman, for out of man this one was taken." Right here, what they're doing is establishing a hierarchy of conscious and subconscious. We have developed into a point where we are now conscious and self-aware. We have developed enough. We haven't experienced life. We are both the man and the woman. our conscious and our inner being. However, in the beginning, it is pure. We haven't experienced life yet. Therefore, a man leaves his father and his mother, you leave the past, and clings to his wife, you turn inward, and they become one flesh. How could they become one flesh? What if they hurt you? What if? This only works if you turn it internally, and we are one flesh. I am one flesh. I am father and mother. I am conscious and subconscious. And the man and his wife, that is each one of us, we're young. We were both naked and not ashamed. We're all naked and not ashamed. Spiritual world, not physical. We are naked. We're not covered with anything. We don't have hatred, anger, judgment, shame. We are naked. We don't have anything to hide. We are not ashamed. This is a pure place. Right there, 7 and 3. Right before first sin, which was when we began to experience life. That is the origins of 7 and 3 and why it is so important. This is a time in our life where things were okay, then life goes bad. What I'm going to do is simply now jump right into what I was going to talk to Van about, some problems that I'm running into with the text that I've downloaded and some workarounds and things like that. So it is important to me to have the Bible in a Word document. I've got Windows. That's just what it works for me. And I'm not really good with software. I've done a lot of hardware stuff in my past, but the computer programs and things like that were never my thing. So I'm not very good at that, but I would go through and nevertheless spot patterns in the material. And what I realized that if I would take that and download that into a Word document, I can use the find feature in there to go search for words and how many times it occurs and where it occurs. And that was going to be incredibly revealing to me. It ended up being incredibly revealing, and that's what I'm doing here. So the problem with downloading things, I went to the NRSV because I just love the NRSV. What I didn't realize as I'm going through and downloading things here is that when the original NRSV was published, that it's a great translation. A lot of religious churches, in the community use that. And what they've done is they've adopted it. But in doing so, they put in their own footnotes and other things like that. So I'm seeing that there are variations from the NRSV that are downstream from the original one. Same thing as if somebody were to take the King James Version of the Bible and start trying to clean that up. It's like, these are downstream versions. You should start at the original source and create your own from there. So there's a few snags I'm running into. There's one thing that they do in there that there's an issue with that is it's got good things and bad things. In the King James Version, you just have chapters, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And those are generally broke down between stories. Let me back this up for a second. There are individual blocks in the stories. If you were to go to a Greek myth and they sail from island to island, at each island along the way is the next adventure. As I'm looking for sevens and groups of numbers and things like that, it has to be within a certain section. It's not just all over the place, unless it is meant to be all over the place. Sometimes that happens as well. But sometimes you will see, like right up front, something repeated 3 times or something repeated 7 times in the introduction area. That right there is setting things up. I wouldn't take 2 from there and 1 or somewhere else and 1 from over there and count them up. They're grouped in a certain way. You have to understand their mental puzzles. They have to be structured in such a way that if you're hearing it, you can process that and figure it out. They're not using computers and they're hearing one story at a time, perhaps, and they're doing it from memory. When the stories were originally made, these Jewish stories, they did not have chapters and they did not have verses. They were just told in a free flow. Later on, Archbishop of Canterbury, Christian, is the one that added in the chapters and verses later on. As printing is on board, now we can start sharing ideas. We need a way. I mean, it was important. It went from something that we had memorized to something that was on paper. So we have to have some way of, the memory is no longer involved, or the memorization is no longer involved with it. So now we have to have ways of referring. Go to this verse in this chapter. Oh, okay, yeah, I don't remember what that is. We're doing it differently. So it's really kind of a disadvantage in having that done. That having been said, that's okay. Actually, where they put the chapters are very good. From what I can see so far, and from the King James, they blocked out the chapters very well, except for one. The one that looks deliberate, the first and the second creation, where they put day 7 at the first creation down into chapter 2, when that should have ended the chapter, and chapter 2 should have started where the rivers in Eden begin, all the other creation story. Everything else looks spot on, so I'm okay with that being there. Now, what happened in the NRSV is that they started further sectioning that out and putting, here's an announcement of what's coming up. Noah and the flood is coming up. And what they just did right there is put a good thing in, Noah and the flood. Oh, I can find that easily. However, watch. All right, I'm going to go back to Genesis, and I'm searching and I'm doing things, and I'm making cross references. So one of the things that I'm just finally led to is to look for how many times Noah appears. Oh, I got 40 times exactly. Remember the list? There we go. See right there, the 40? So that's one of the numbers that continues to show up. 40 days, 40 nights, 40 years in the desert, 40 days on the mountain, 40 years old when married. Jesus, 40 days in the desert. The 40s are constantly coming up with something in there. So right here it says, wow, Noah is even showing 40 as that part of the grid. But I go through and I start, and I report that, yeah, I told Van, I found this 40 times, but look, I go to check. Look what happens right here. This one was added in. Rats, it's not correct. So what I have to do is I come up into ones like this. What I finally hit on doing here for consistency, I like that note in there. I want to find where Adam's descendants to Noah is. I want to see where that starts. And so all I do is I go past the first vowel and put an asterisk in there. I'll do that with all of them because I'm going to want to search Adam, probably descendants and, whatever else. So anyway, I'm just doing this as you see that. And that's why things are misspelled. Oops. And look funny the way that they do is because I have to purposefully misspell them, which I can read that easily. I can see that Adam's descendants to Noah. It's easy to work around that, but it'll fool the navigation search. So that's why I do that. All right. So that was a got you on a few things. Now, all right. And I realize that the nature of this makes it very difficult to see. There's a mental process an individual has to hook into before you can see what's going on. It really is something a person has to work out in their mind. It's a puzzle. But I think watching somebody else or looking at things can tell you it's there. But you still have to work it out in your own head. Okay. So as I'm doing this, what I want to do is keep taking shots off in the distance. I want to keep going downstream from Genesis and grab up other books of the Bible that are monomyth style materials. I'm not going to do this with Proverbs or Psalms or something like that, but all of the stories about people and the lineages and all that, those are all going to fit this monomyth structure right here. So what I did here is I downloaded Joshua, and what I do here is I start experimenting. I'm looking for my 3 and 7 to begin with. So I'll type that in and just start looking for a 3. Okay, there's actually 10 of them total, it says. The first one here is God's commission to Joshua. Preparation for the invasion. Prepare your provisions for in 3 days. 3 is going to mean that point. You're going to have to be in this kind of state to get ready to go. You're going to have to be ready, and you're going to cross over the Jordan. That sounds like a threshold coming up. But it doesn't look very familiar. It's just 1. There's a couple down here. Spies sent to Jericho. No, that gets into a different, it's changing chapters and stories here. So I don't link those up. It's like, something else is going on. I'm not quite sure. That's okay. That 3 is just one option. 7. Oh, we're showing 19 of those. Wow. Look, let me get the top one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Where do these appear? That's the top one. So they're down here a ways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that's a weird number. And there's something I see that I don't know what to make of. 7th is said twice. Everything else is just 7. So there would be 12 times 7 was said, which is one of the numbers. But I don't typically find them that way. I don't separate them that way. I think 7 and 7th and 70 and 700 somehow are the same thing. Remember, that's what they have to work with. Those are the clues in here that are nested in the words. How would you make it complicated? This is what you'd have to do. This is how you put a puzzle in. But this one becomes a little obscure, so I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna skip that one then and go to 12. Okay, and it tells me it showed up 13 times. What I want to do is check at the top, though, and as soon as I do, oh, how fortunate. Check this out. Yep, look at that. We don't want that there. That's showing us a false hit. So I'm going to modify that. I'm going to reconduct the search. And I'll keep checking, but so far this is interesting because 12 shows up 12 times. I want to make sure that they are all accurate, that they're not something else. Oh, you know what? I'm looking the wrong way. There we go. Those are all 12s, yeah. They belong in the story. They're not added in. I'm backing up a little bit. See where it says the new generation circumcised? That all has to be, the circumcised definitely needs to be modified so it won't come up. Generation 2. Probably new as well. I don't think I'd worry about the. Anyway, okay. Those will mess up searches in those areas. All of these are 12s, but they're spread out all over the place. So if 12 shows up 12 times in here, then what's happening? It's not creating new analogs. It's just saying that 12 equals 12. I've got three ideas. Number one, that it's a complete accident. However, everything is so consistent in here that I really don't believe that. We can find this numbering system so precise that I don't believe this is an accident. If we didn't find any numbering system, I'd readily call it an accident. But with so much else lining up, it's like, nope, that's on purpose. This is an attention getter. However, it's spread out all over as well. And doesn't create anything new. And what I realize is what are they listening to as stories are coming around? This isn't all they have. It's coming from all over. It's coming from Greek. It's coming from it's coming downstream from Babylonian stories. It's coming from Egyptian. This is their media. They probably want these voraciously. I think that 12 in there is a label. Somebody could look at that story and go, oh yeah, this fits the criteria of that Abrahamic stuff right there. I see it. It's got that code in there. How many books in Alexandria were gone? There were stories. There was a lot of material. This would have been just somebody could look at that and say, well, you know what that means? It means it's Abrahamic. Look for the clues. That's another option. And the last one, all you could say is that it's purposeful, but it's just artistic or something like that. I nevertheless, though, because of the patterning in here, it just seems to me like 12s are showing up so predominantly that there's here. I didn't record all of this. I've been in there in Joshua just kind of poking around at a few things the way that I do, punching up numbers and whatnot. And one of them came up here that was Gilgal. That comes up 12 times too. I checked it and all of them are correct. So there's another one that comes up 12 times and I don't know what it does. Let's zoom in on it a little bit here. Look at the top one. That's it. The people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. Those 12 stones which they had taken out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal, saying to the Israelites. Sounds like purity. 12 stones out of the river, Jordan. That's crossing the threshold. Something in there. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure without spending a lot of time interpreting it. But again, we see patterns of numbers emerging that are just it's astounding. Look at some more here. As the template goes on, it's going to want us to continue. It's going to continue to start from this place. Somehow it's going to have to encode the idea that we're back at this day 7, day 3. The story's going to start from here. The template is going to start from here. The story is going to be carrying somehow in analog
verbiage, something different. And this is the collection of analogs I've got, and I'm confirming them. And if we look through here, we'll see 7, 3 right there. That's the number. Righteous, previous videos, it said 7 times. We can find cross-references there. Covenant said 7 times. We can do that. 50s and 40s, same thing, come from various places and continue to reconfirm. 30 is next. You see, the green ones are ones that I've confirmed. Black ones are ones that I suspect because I see them show up, but not commonly. I see a 30, 20, 10 show up the same place a 40 shows up, for example. And since I know 40 is confirmed, I'll go ahead and put 30, 20, 10, the other ones down, thinking, these are there, maybe they are. Let's keep looking at them and see what shows up. All right, having said all that, set it up, I'm going to grab this 30 right here. Okay, what I'm going to do is just kind of start scanning things and take a look if I see any kind of consistent patterns emerging. And the first time it appears here, the first time 30 appears in the Bible, you see up here where I've got this highlighted yellow. Those are my sevenths. 7 said 3 times right there. That's where it starts. That's the beginning of it. The next time, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm kind of working backwards. There's my 7 again, or 7 said 3 times again. And then down here we've got within the Adam's descendants to Noah and his son. I'm still mining out of here. We just pulled the 800s out of here that showed up 7 times. And now I see 30 show up 3 times. 30 3 times in that section. That is a match so far. Down here, this yellow is 7s again, the third group of 7s right there. I'm saying that this is I'm looking at patterns here, and if I keep showing stuff, you'll see them. Okay, 30 cubits, that's part of the ark. Now, we're going to get back to this, because I'm going to say that each one of these, 50, was one of them confirmed already. 30 is one of them confirmed. All of these are righteous. What we're doing is it looks like we're pulling in numbers that are all being righteous. We're building an ark of righteousness. We're building a place for ourselves. This is our new self, or how we transition from our old life as we fled out the world to our new life as we start out once again naked, drunk on our wine this time. This time we feel good and we are uncovered in our tent. We've gone back to stripping off whatever it was that was there. You see the analog shift, but is still carrying the same conceptual idea. So if we think about rephrasing that for us, building the ark of righteousness, building our self of righteousness, becoming righteousness to become different from our previous self. We're destroying our old world to our new world. And then downstream, Jesus says simply to seek and knock for righteousness' sake. In the first style, the big verse style, we are the ark. The ark represents us. In the Jesus style there, it just says, hey, you're the one. It's a different style, but it's telling us the same thing. We must look for this righteousness. The righteousness is what? It's going to have to be pure state, but it's implicit truth. Here is how it is actually at the interactive state. When we started off in 3:7, the beginning, that was a time in our life before first sin, which means before we started judging our life experiences and becoming attached to them and becoming products of them. Righteousness means that we cease doing that we stop living through our memories and our life experiences and find a way to let go of them so that we then live mentally free of those experiences, not haunted by them. Naked in the spiritual world means I got nothing to hide. You can know anything about me and I don't care. That's how good that's how resolved it is for me. I got nothing to hide anymore. It doesn't bother me. That's what we want to get to. Anyway, the 30 right there showing one time, this is not a confirmation of it. This is a use of it. If I go down to the next one, descendants of Shem, what do I get? Oh, it's another descendant one. Guess what? An analog form. How many times does 30 show up here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Are we seeing a pattern in here? Okay, after having looked at all of that, I am now satisfied. Hang on here, let me get to it. That I have met the requirements of changing this 30 from a, I suspect it is righteous to, oh yeah, it's there. I see it now. So I'm going to change that too. I don't know what I'm doing here, typing it over. What I want to do is change its color to green. There we go. So it's being set up in some places early on, and wherever it gets used later, it is the idea right there. Every time that 30 shows up, it means righteous. It is one of the ways they can say righteous or get back to that 7 and 3 without it showing up there. These numbers continue to line up that way. This is where those numbers come from to begin with, the 50, 40, 30. This right here, the judgment pronounced on Sodom. We've got right here where it announces it up above. There's a part of this where Abram is not talking yet, but it's getting things set up. I'll just leave it at that. What we're doing right now is counting. As we get down here, then Abraham came near him and said, as soon as Abraham starts talking, Abraham says righteous 7 times in this block as he's talking to God. But in there, it's this, what if there's 50? What if there's 40? What if there's 30? What if there's 20? And it kind of goes back and forth like that. And you think, well, that's an attention getter right there. It is. So I take those numbers and begin looking at them and realizing that they do appear to be analogs being created right here. So that's why I put them all up as suspect, and that's where the 30 comes from. So let's try 20 and see what we have next, because let me try that here. Actually, first, if I put 30 right here, we'll see right in the Sodom and Gomorrah story, 30 shows up 2 times. What was before here? 40. One, two, three. Yeah, 40 shows up 3 times. 40 and 3 are confirmed up there as well. Okay, and I can keep doing that. So let's try another one. Let's try a new one. 20 is one of them that I suspect, because 20 shows up twice right here too. So let's find out. I'll put 20 on my 7 list up there, and it's black. Let's go take a look and see where else it shows up. All right, we've got a wickedness of humans. It only shows up once there. That means it's a use of it. It's not being established. The flood subsides, 27th, not much there. Descendants of Shem, 20, not much there. Down here, there's 2 of them. And that's that Sodom and Gomorrah mine where I pulled that. This is where the 20 came from to begin with. This is where I suspect it being used as an analog. Sarah's death and burial, 27. Laban overtakes Jacob. 1, 2. Jacob sends presents to appease. So down here it appears 3 times, but that's 20 male goats, 20 rams, 20 female donkeys. That would be pure somethings, 200, 200. Boy, I'm having a hard time with the 20 right now. Jacob sold to his brothers. That's the last time it appears in there. So the only time it appeared 3 times was here under the Jacob sends presents to a. So I look at this 20 and go, I'm still not confident with it. You saw the other one pop up so much, you're like, oh yeah, no doubt. You look at this one and go, something different is happening. There's 1, 2, 3. Oh, you know what? There's 12. Okay, 12. Let me make sure it doesn't show up in any of that it hasn't been typed in anywhere else. This is the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, yeah, it is confirmed. 12 is one of the numbers. Let's go back to our number list. Okay, so up here where the 20 is, I've went ahead and made it green. There was that 3 block right there that I looked at, but it was so deep into it, I thought, boy, I've not seen one like that. Maybe, maybe not, but it didn't look good. Everything else kind of cross-references up. You don't just find one occurrence. You find multiple occurrences. So on that one, it looked a bit shaky until you look back and go, oh, wait a minute. Throughout all of Genesis, it's used exactly 12 times. And 12 is one of the numbers up there as well. I don't have it confirmed, shown up there in green, but it's going to be. Yeah, we got 12 tribes. We got 12 disciples. We got 12 qualities, 12 characteristics, things that we need early on that are pure. 12 is going to fit into that right there. So a lot of this is really shoring up. I mean, what I suspect to begin with, I keep going through here and just finding confirmation that it seems like the theory that they're doing this with numbers, it continually is correct. I haven't found any instances where it's not right yet. There's a lot to go. But I think what I can demonstrate here should be an eye-opener. Okay, for anybody following, let's go downstream and look. I want to demonstrate that this, once again, is how you do it if you're looking on your own, or at least how I'm doing it and finding this. I guess that's what I mean to say. I encourage anybody to help me figure this out. This is just, it's so thick, it's racking my brain. Okay, what I did is I downloaded Ezekiel. This is a story for a lot of people, right? This is the ancient alien astronauts UFO story of the Bible, proving that UFOs visited Ezekiel. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with this, and I want to do some searching with it. But at first, what I'm going to do is start reading it. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for anomalous things that somehow get my attention in a certain way. And I don't know how to describe that. It's something that grows on you, I guess, from reading it. In fact, let me say this, and I cannot emphasize this enough. We have to be able to put ourselves in their shoes. Imagine you're some poor kid back there that can't read or write. You're just trying to survive. You're living life. Your life's completely different. You're not struggling. What you face is a normal thing. These are your stories. You're hearing it. You need to hear something in here that makes you go, oh, what was that? Hey, say that part again. I heard something repeat there. I heard something staccato. I heard something that got my attention because it didn't flow. It stopped and it did a little hop, skip, and a jump right there before it moved on. That's a mental process. Okay, let's zoom on this and read it. In the 30th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month. Right there, that's what I'm contending they're doing. See the 30, the 4, and the 5. They have to start out from the 7-3 or the eve day right there. What have they done? Let's take a look at the list of analogs. We've got 30, 4, and 5 right here. 30 has been confirmed. 4 is suspected. 50 was said 4 times in the analog farm from Sodom and Gomorrah. And what was it, the 5th one? Yeah, 5 was said with 40. And 5 is on the list as well. I'm not going to call that confirmed. I want to find it elsewhere first. But I want to say that this is what I see coming up and what they're doing to obscure the fact that they're starting at this point again. They're changing dates, ages of people, amount of animals they have, something like that. But those numbers are going to come from here, and that's why they're so repetitive. Okay, this is not an interpretation video, but let's just read a little bit of it here. So our date there, in the pure beginning, as I was among the exiles by the river Chebar, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. Remember, this isn't the beginning of time. This is later on in time. Genesis 12, the very first after the flood, after Noah and God's first call, Abram and Sarai, they start out. This is the same place. They were put in Canaan with a famine in the land. That was an empty place. That was like Eden prior to partaking of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Yeah, and that's what this is right here. This isn't our birth, it's an iteration later. On the 5th day of the month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiakim. The word of the Lord came to the priest Ezekiel, son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Chebar. And the hand of the Lord was on him there. Okay, that's the Lord, all of that is higher self. The Ezekiel is the called person right here. Ezekiel has just been called, and he's by the river Chebar, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, which is probably going to be a threshold to cross. So it all looks good, but let's not get into interpretation. I'm looking for something different right now. I'm doing kind of a scan mode for something different. As I read through here, I see things like 4 faces, 4 living creatures, their wings on their 4 sides. I'm seeing 4s. And I go, okay, that gets my attention. I want to go in here and type in 4. And what do I get? There's 150 times. We have 4th. And before I go on, let me say something here. How to block these out. You can't, there's 50 results in here. You don't count 50. How do I determine if this meets up with something if there's 50 in here? Where do I stop counting and start counting? Okay, there are steps in the template that go along the way, and they're going to be contained within a step. In Genesis, we see very specifically what it's like a mine or a garden or something like that. It's where those lineages are, and where people live for a certain amount of years, and actually all the repeating and the stuff starts happening there. Now, there's not going to be lineages down here. Those have already been created upstream in Genesis. We're looking for downstream variations of something. But we're also moving on a template from step to step to step. At first, they're going to set it up where there's a calling. There's going to be, somehow they're going to put cause and effect and cycles in here. And they're going to start setting up some analogs. There's going to have to be some sort of a pathway to cross. Ezekiel at the river. There we go. Remember, Moses had to cross the Red Sea. Jason had to go through the clashing rocks. They're going to have to go through that. There's crossing some threshold. The river Styx. The siege of Jerusalem portrayed. There's going to be an old city, a sword against Jerusalem that represents your old self, a judgment on idolatrous Israel. This is a story written for the Israelis, so that I become the Israelis. I become who this story is about. This story is a guru for me as this person, as this people right here. In fact, the way the story is written, if I am on the adventure, if I say I'm going to turn inward and go on the adventure, the way this is written is that my consciousness becomes Ezekiel, the Lord is my higher self, and the Israelis are my inner qualities, my entire inner self. So this is judgment on my earlier self. Impending disaster, it's coming up. Okay, so that's how it's going to sequence in a big step along the way. Now there's a lot of fine detail in here. What happens if I come up with 4? Let me count these. You'll notice that there's 4 and 4th. Let's see if that makes a difference. I find sometimes it seems to, and sometimes not. I'm not quite sure. So there's a 4th. That's 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That doesn't ring with me. If I took this and made it 1 because it was 4th, 1/4 and 10 fours, still doesn't. Okay, let me keep reading. I go along here and I see something like wing, and I go, wings showing up. The wings were spread out above each creature, had 2 wings, each of which touched the wing of the other, while 2 covered their bodies. Each moved straight ahead. That there's at some point in time, you're catching something that's like a repetitive nature of a word. And right there, I heard wing. 34 results. Right here in the beginning, that's established. And this is one step here from the beginning, the vision of the chariot, down to the vision of the scroll, where it changes. Chapter 2 right there. Yeah, I'll just leave it that. So I want to count between the start and right here, and then I want to stop counting. How many times does it occur right here in the beginning? This is what sets it up for the rest of the story, the rest of the text. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, with 12, with wings appearing 12 times right in the beginning, that means wings has been set up as an analog for this story to represent that 7-3 time, or that righteousness point. Let's go see if we can find something here. Let me move on to where it's used. Ezekiel at the river. Okay, so we're getting ready to cross, it sounds like. Then the Spirit lifted me up, and as the glory of the Lord rose from its place, I heard behind me the sound of loud rumbling. It was the sound of the wings of the living creatures brushing against one another and the sound of the wheels beside them that sounded like a loud rumbling. Okay, what's happening here at the level of template, the Spirit lifted me up. This is the higher self that is working with the consciousness. We have things hidden inside of us, and we are... The sound of the wings behind you is righteousness. This sounds like we're getting ready to go on to a healing journey. So I'm not positive yet, but it looks like, okay, it could fit. It could. Okay, that's following. So that's not a good one. Let me put a space in front of wing to make sure we don't catch too many. Oh, now we're down to 24. Okay. So far we're good on all the ones we've looked at, though. Yeah. Next, the sound of the wings of the cherubim. Yep. The form of a human hand under their wings. The cherubim appeared to have the form. Okay, so I think as we go through the story, the wings are going to be a way to signify that righteousness, that truth, that bottom line reality, but also to let go of hanging on to our perceptions that we're products of what we are worried about, what we're hurt about, what we have judged in our life, and we need to let that go. And they're hiding that in myth and religion, and they're doing it in Abraham like this. How fun is that? What a fun puzzle. When you look at it, it's actually pretty simple. It is actually very simple. As far as details, boy, I've looked at it. Van asked me about, what if it says 4 and 4th? Are those to be considered the same thing? Times I look at it and I think, it actually counts out this way if I change it. Other times it doesn't. I don't know. I don't think so. And I think that there's a couple of things. Number one, we're not looking at it in the original language, so I don't know what it sounded like in Aramaic or Hebrew or anything like that, depending on the source. In this case, Hebrew. But also, I think that we in our digital age are really focused on, you got to put a space there or it's not going to do right. It's not going to collate correctly. It's ones and zeros. Don't leave a space in there. It'll mess everything up. I think for them, it was not like that. I think for them, it was a lot more coarse, a lot more attention getting. But it might be. I don't know. You see how big it is as I start getting into it. And it looks like numbers are holding up and being right. I'm not finding any problems yet. It looks like this is it. Anyway, and you can see the nature of what I'm doing and how some of it is just really pattern seeking and looking through it. And at some point you begin to recognize things that I haven't heard that before, and it's coming at me really quick right there. You just pick up on that, and that's what gets my attention. But then you start digging into and just randomly hitting other words or names or something, and they come popping up into the same. Nothing alerted you. You're just, I wonder how many times this name show up. Oh, 12 times. You just start hitting on certain things that you're looking at like that. And I realize the depth of it is just way beyond my capacity to see it. I'm barely, I can only say I'm barely looking at it. It seems like I barely have a toehold. Actually, I'm making a little progress. I am, but the nature of it is very foreign, and the analogs that they're using are very foreign. So the concept that, it takes a while to work it out in the mind. It just takes mental experiment. But in this case, this is just data collecting and counting. Yeah, how many times does the name show up? How many times does that number show up? And they all continue to get back here. So the stories are going to be like this. You start out pure. Something goes wrong. You divide. Life goes bad. It continues on until it's wiped out. Then you need to go on some sort of a healing thing. In a nutshell, that's it. Then you turn inward. You heal. You face the demons. You give burnt offerings, whatever. Surfacing, bringing to the light the things that are inside of you. Talking with God, God healing them, letting you know, bring that out. That's stuff you don't want to face because it hurts too much. Guess what? If you sit down and start facing it, it'll eventually quit hurting. And as long as you don't, it won't. So you go through all of that, then you come back to the world healed. You're no longer fitting into some sort of a cyclical thing that is going on. Cycles was a big one in the beginning. Yeah, cycles and cause and effect. We're going to continue to live out life cyclically
based in cause and effect from our previous life experience until we realize that and find ways of letting go of it. That's the template. If anybody wants to turn in and heal, that's it. Find everything that hurts you and look at it until it doesn't hurt you anymore. That's what it's going to say. The more we are afraid of things and put them away, the bigger they grow and the bigger they get and the harder they hurt our life. In this case, what I'm doing is just it's kind of an academic realization that, you know what, all of Abrahamic material is based in this right here. Someone in the background knows what's going on, and they've got us fooled. I say that's bullshit. All right. Hope this video was helpful, and for people that are seeking, there's a lot of moving parts and things that I'm running into along the way. I'm making mistakes, I'm backing up, and I'm readjusting and trying to figure things out. So I'm taking a very if I can't somehow demonstrate something in the end, I don't have anything yet. That's it. So in this case, it was a little shaky there as I'm connecting those dates at the end there that are still not confirmed from Genesis. I still have to go up in Genesis and continue to work on these. These became very solid up in Genesis, and they continue to be used through Abrahamic material from that core. It appears to me. And there's probably more downstream. They could be generating new ones within the document itself. Repeat something 7 times in one area with another number, that number then throughout the rest of that document is also the same thing that wasn't created in Genesis but is created downstream. You just have to watch for that. It's a simple encoding process. Repeat this word this many times, it becomes that number, which was related to that over there. That's the grid. It's that simple. It's just a matter of not knowing in our heads what they have going on. We look at the Bible and read it. It doesn't process like memorization. It doesn't. Yeah. Okay, I went back and edited this. I'm still thinking about this, and it's still growing as I look at it. You just get ideas. So I put 4 back into Ezekiel again, and that comes up with 50 results. 4 is a highly suspected analog. 50 is a confirmed analog. So it lines up that 4 and 50 would be the same thing. In fact, think about that for a second. I've got 4. 50 was said 4 times in the Sodom and Gomorrah farm. Now what do we have? We have 4 said 50 times. How fun. Okay, and just like that, I believe that I have confirmed 4 as a viable analog now. Yeah, absolutely. You see how when things keep pointing to the same places and counting up the same way, it's a web. If I count the first section here, there was that section that was 11 that earlier, it's all in the first chapter, and I didn't recognize the 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 appearances. So I'll try something different. I'm going to search for 11. There are 3 results of 11. In the 12th year, 12, 11th month, they just created that up above. And there's 2 ways that they did that. They said, in that first block up there, they said 4 11 times, and then 11 shows up 3 times. There are 2 angles coming into 11, firming it up as an analog, at least for this material. On the first day of the month, so the first must be 1, 2. What is the next one? The second one. In the 11th year, okay, on the first month, so that the 11 and the 1 are lined up again, and the 7th day, so the 7 has got to be good. Yeah, the 7 is there. And the final third one is in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, on the first day of the month. So it sounds like first is also created. What would be here? 16 results. The first face, firstborn. You see how it wraps up? It's like a snake eating its tail that just keeps going around and around and around. All right, I just wanted to throw that in. I got to thinking about that, and you know what? As you start playing with this stuff, you start figuring it out, and you just go, what about this? What about trying that? Just keep counting it up. That's all they had to work with, counting it up. Counting it up. Yeah, that's all. So that's what we have to do. It's a wow. Boggles the mind. Do you see that? See you in the next video.